So we're continuing our study of the Acts of the Apostles, and today we want to begin at the first verse of the 25th chapter, where we read this. 3 days after arriving in the province, Festus went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem, where the chief priests and the Jewish leaders appeared before him and presented the charges against Paul. They requested Festus, as a favor to them, to have Paul transferred to Jerusalem, for they were preparing an ambush to kill him along the way. Festus answered, "Paul is being held at Caesarea, and I myself am going there soon. Let some of your leaders come with me, and if the man has done anything wrong, they can press charges against him there." Festus, not that anyone really cares. Porcius is the family name, or Porcius. Greek isn't my first language, so you'll excuse me, but it means pig or hog. Thought that was interesting. Pigs and hogs were held in higher esteem as sacrificial animals back then, but that was the family name. So when you see in the 24th chapter, Porcius, Festus, it's kind of like how a lot of particular families from Asia, they'll put the last name first. So Festus, I know you just were dying to hear all of that, right? Barely unpacked his bags, and he made a trip to Caesarea, to Jerusalem. Felix is no longer the governor, and just 3 days into his new post, he's savvy enough to know, I need to go, or probably there's some things brewing. I'm going to Jerusalem. The religious leaders are described, you look at the text, by Luke as chief priests and Jewish leaders. And they wasted no time coming to Festus. As one commentator said, before Festus could even find his way around the palace or the offices and where are the bathrooms and where's the kitchen, you have the religious leaders coming there, pressing him again to do them a favor, to bring Paul to Jerusalem. It wasn't a legal move. It was a trap. The text says it right here. They were preparing an ambush to kill him along the way. You're going to hear me say this a few times today. This is not coincidence, and this is more than politics or history. This is what it means to live as followers of Jesus in a world that more often than not is hostile to our faith. It's not one of those let bygones be bygones, can't we all get along? No, there's actual hostility to the truth. Shouldn't come as a surprise to you, and then what Jesus warned his disciples, and by extension us. Erica, your homework is Matthew 10. In Matthew 10:16, Jesus said, "Be shrewd, be wise as snakes, as innocent, as harmless as doves." Now, Paul probably, not probably, I'm sure he didn't have text, but he might have oral, not tradition, but an oral record of the words of Christ. But more than any of all of that, he had the Holy Spirit of the living God in him. The same Spirit of the living God that raised Jesus from the dead was in Paul. And so he had to have reconciled, to have had that understanding. Okay, it's going to present a unique opportunity. How am I going to stand in this space? Notice how Luke puts it. They didn't just ask, they persistently implored. In the original language, it's one of a campaign of pressure. It wasn't just one meeting, it was multiple meetings, and they were determined, organized. That was calculating. What's your point, Pastor Meeks? Well, my point is the evil one is evil, but he's also patient, and he's calculating, and he's persistent, and he's rarely passive, and he's going to keep pressing and keep pressing and keep like a roaring lion, just going around, just seeking what he might be able. It's kind of like when you, for those of you who are parents, have little ones, it's that child that is fixated on something and just can't help it. I want what I want, and I want it now. And I'm gonna holler, I'm gonna scream, I'm gonna get like a turtle on its back. I'm going to get on my back and I'm gonna kick my legs and flail, and I'm gonna create a ruckus until you notice me. You notice me, and then you'll have to, and if we're not careful as parents, and by extension as believers, well, it's like, give the kid the toy. Just shut him up. That's the absolute wrong thing to do. Well, just shut them up. Anyway, so the religious leaders, they weren't asking for justice. They were looking for an opportunity to ambush. Again, don't be surprised that the world, the evil one, plays the long game in the pursuit of what they are. The enemy is patient, and he'll wait for the right moment. And that's why we need to be both alert and anchored. Alert and anchored. Don't forget, this is interesting, again, for those of you who heard the last messaging. At the end of the 24th chapter, Felix, waiting for a bribe, decided to keep Paul in prison. For how long? 2 years. 2 years. So for 2 years, the religious leaders, I'm plotting. I'm thinking about this. Boys, now there's a change in leadership. Let's get on this. Let's move into this space. Let's strike while the iron's hot. But keep in mind, Jesus didn't say, I'm sending you in like lions. I'm sending you in like sheep. I'm sending you into this space not to combat, go toe to toe, fist to fist, hammer to hammer. You're sheep. You're sheep. We're sheep. We're sheep. Well, but Pastor Meeks, sheep don't have much of a chance when it comes to doing battle with lions. No, they don't. That's why we have to put our trust in the shepherd. We're sheep. We're sheep. Be wise as serpents. Kind of wisdom that recognizes the schemes of the evil one and the enemy and refuses to be naive. And is joking with Deacon Nate earlier today. And it's like, no, it's in the words of Eddie Murphy. No, we're not going for the banana in the tailpipe. No, we're not going for that. It doesn't mean to be manipulated. It means to be prepared. Asking hard questions and understanding the times that we live in. Paul had been down this road before. But Festus, on the other hand, he was walking into a trap. But Paul didn't panic, and he didn't cave, and he understood the strategy. And more importantly, he was trusting God. How do you know? We'll see that in a second. So the challenge for us is to be smart and also to be clean. We're not called just to be sharp thinkers and to have soft hearts. Innocent as doves means to have integrity. Integrity. Even when we're surrounded by corruption. There's been more than one promotion that I had to forego when I was working for who I was working for because of integrity. Well, if you were to do this, then this opportunity is going to happen for you. Conversely, if you don't do this, then you have reached the level of whatever level you're at. Integrity. Integrity. Not being manipulated. The world seems to be totally unhinged. I keep reminding us, I remind me, I remind you, we are in Babylon. We're in Babylon. We're not in the promised land. We're not in some aspirational promised land. We're in Babylon, which means we don't bury our head in the sands. We have a very clear-eyed and real understanding of the challenges that are going on from without and from within. We're in Babylon. We don't throw up our hands and run to the catacombs. We are clear-eyed. We have integrity. We do what God has called us to do. Okay, I know. Festus is walking into the trap. So be smart, be clean. Why are you saying all this, Pastor? I'm saying you can outthink your enemies and the evil one and still lose your witness in the process. You can outthink and you can do some quick moves, and God will not be glorified in what you've done. Well, they were evil, and that's why I did what I did. Well, there's a time and place for that. But again, innocent as doves, having integrity, refusing to be corrupted with the corruption that's all around us. We're both wise and innocent. See, and that's the challenge that we face in walking that narrow path. Because particularly in political times that we're in now, it's like, oh, well, if that team is not playing by the rules, whatever team that is, then we shouldn't play by the rules. We should just, what are we doing? What are we doing? Who are we serving? Whose are we? Festus ultimately does the right thing, not because he's a godly man, but because God is writing the story. God, see, just like and we'll study that. That'll be, God willing, that'll be our next course of study after the Acts of the Apostle will be the book of Esther, is that you don't see God explicitly in the text, but God is all in the text. Said before, I say again, our behavior, our aroma, the cologne, the spiritual cologne that we have on, it will precede even any word that we say. It's just like, oh, there's something about you that's attractive. I want to get to know you because of what I'm smelling spiritually. Spoiler alert again, Paul's not going to be handed over and he will not be killed along the road. That's Paul was on a mission, and so are we. And the hand of God is guiding Paul and protecting Paul and guiding us if we just give the Holy Spirit a half a chance, is guiding us and will lead us to where we need to be. So even when it feels like, boy, I'm at work, I'm in whatever situation, I'm in systems, it just doesn't seem like it's working out the way it should work out, where I'm in the middle of a culture that's rejecting God. God then and God now is watching over Paul and all of us. We're walking out our call. Verse 6. After spending 8 or 10 days with them, Festus went down to Caesarea. The next day he convened the court and ordered that Paul be brought before him. When Paul came in, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood around him. They brought many serious charges against him, but they could not prove them. Then Paul made his defense. I've done nothing wrong against the Jewish law or against the temple or against Caesar. Luke says the next day, Festus took his place on the bema, the platform, the judgment seat. I'll share more, obviously, bema ought to prick our spiritual ears. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it wasn't just a chair or a bench or a rock, but it was a symbol of authority, the bema. And it's the place where life and death, destinies, everything was decided at the bema. Festus sat down on the seat, and I'm sure he had all the pomp and circumstance, the probably had his whatever robes or whatever, and he looked and acted the part of the judge. But dare I say, the real drama wasn't with him or what he looked like or necessarily what he said, but it was the noise that the Jewish, read the text, they brought many serious charges against him, but they could not prove them. Brought many serious charges against them, but was not proven. You know, it's I remember somebody, my father used to say, the evil one is like that chained dog, that he is given only so much link in that chain that God allows, and that's it. All of the noise, all of the charges, everything that's being hurled at Paul, and they couldn't prove any of it. So what does Paul do? He's standing there calmly and with conviction. If we're not careful, we will respond to that barking dog. He's like, no, that dog's chained and may not even have any teeth, truth be told. But regardless, that dog will only go as far as God allows that dog to go. Luke doesn't bother listing all the charges. I'm sure they probably weren't even coherent. But Paul's response gives us insight into the attack. Three things at least. First, Paul insists he has done nothing against the law of the Jews. It's not a new claim. I have done nothing. Second, Paul refutes the charges of desecrating the temple. So you're going by hearsay. You're saying I brought someone in there. That's a death penalty move. I didn't do that, but you're saying I was willing to do that. Really? That's what we're doing. And finally, Paul says that, and this is what would matter most to Rome and to Festus, he had done nothing against Caesar. I haven't broken the law, I haven't desecrated the temple, and I haven't run any red lights. It's nothing. Too often we can get caught up in, again, trying to respond to every slight and every attack. It's like, no, we're not doing that. The truth is the truth. And just like the old nursery rhyme, the farmer in the dale, the cheese stands alone, the truth will stand alone. The truth will stand alone. So Paul, again, is wise as a serpent. He knows exactly what the accusers are trying to do, and he counters with calm and clarity. He's innocent and harmless like a dove. No skeletons, no double life, nothing to hide, no hidden agenda. And isn't it interesting how the evil one and the evildoers manipulated by the evil one, the calmer you get, the louder the yell. I'm not getting the response, again, the child. I'm not getting the response that I'm hoping to get. It's like, so let me yell louder. It's like, we're not doing that. The truth will stand alone. When you're dealing with the truth and you're walking in integrity, you don't have to worry about the bema. We'll get there. I don't get ahead of myself. But the judgment seat of man, it's man. And they can pass conviction and they can say what they're going to say and they're going to do what they're going to do. But the judgment seat of Christ is the one that I would be more worried about. Our job is to be faithful in what God has calling us to be. I'm almost done. Verse 9, Festus, wishing to do the Jews a favor, said to Paul, "Are you willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial before me on these charges?" Paul answered, "I'm standing before Caesar's court where I ought to be tried. I have not done any wrong to the Jews, as you yourself know very well. If, however, I am guilty of doing anything deserving death, I do not refuse to die. But if the charges brought against me by these Jews are not true, no one has the right to hand me over to them. I appeal to Caesar." So much for Festus. You know, you might have had given him a little credit early on, seeing through the sneakiness of the religious leaders. But now he's trying to have it both ways. I want to be, Pax Romana. I want Roman peace at all possible costs. And he's calculating. But in doing so, if you read the text and between the texts, it's obvious that he knows, and we'll see later, he knows that this is bogus. There's nothing going on here. It wasn't a request for truth. It was a request to kill and silence the message. You do know it's not about you. It's about who you stand for and what you say. Why am I being attacked? I just don't like your cologne. I don't like nothing about the perfume you're wearing. I don't like anything about your conversation. You talk when the conversation gets coarse in the rooms that we're in, you step away or you change the conversation and you elevate the space you're in. Oh, here comes so-and-so. Oh, gee, okay, well, let's just cut the jokes off now. You're just who you are becomes an offense. Paul saw right through it. And look at his response. "I am now standing before Caesar's court where I ought to be tried." In other words, this is the right time. This is the right place. I don't need to be shuffled around. We're not going for the banana in the tailpipe. But if I'm guilty of anything deserving death, I'm willing to die. I'm willing to pay the price. Paul is shrewd. He's not cynical. He's bold and he's not belligerent. He sees the situation and he's rising above the conversation that's going on. As I like to say, he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Playing chess even in 3 dimensions. I appeal to Caesar. It's kind of like, for those of you who play cards, I don't, but it's like when you have that hand, it's like, what do you got? Well, I've got I don't know, name something, full house. You got whatever, royal flush. Yeah, this is the hand that beats all hands. And what does he say? I appeal to Caesar. Paul was warned at least twice. You're going to Rome. You're going to Rome. You're going to be a witness for me in Rome. I guarantee, I guess I can't really guarantee, I'm fairly confident he could not have seen that this was the path this was the passage, this was the way, this was the ticket that was going to get him to Rome. But he saw what was going on, and he's calmly and carefully walking in that space, and at some point, it had to click. Oh, okay, This is what's going to get me into that space. Again, all of this stuff that is going on with the religious leaders, with Felix, with Festus, with Agrippa, next week, with Agrippa, all of this is going on. And Paul calmly, it's like, who was I sharing yesterday? It's kind of like Neo in the Matrix. It's like there's a lot of activity going on, but there's this calm, slow approach to, oh, okay, I see what's being cooked up. I see how the evil one is working. And so I see how God is going to fulfill this. So what do you conclude from all of this? Festus had power. Jews were zealous. Paul had no army. He didn't even have a lawyer. He was his own lawyer. Didn't even have a public defender, poor Paul. What gave Paul confidence to appeal to Caesar? Dare I say, everything from Damascus to this point let him know that one thing I can do is I can trust God. I don't know what your journey, your faith walk has been, but if we have truly been looking and listening to that still small voice, we will see how God has been carefully orchestrating, ordering this to happen, this to happen, this to happen. And as I said on that Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, you're sitting in the bucket. You're staying on the track, but you're trusting the engineer that even when you come up to what that looks like a closed door, at the last minute, the door opens up and the bucket continues and the journey continues. That's what Paul is experiencing right now. After Festus had conferred with his council, he declared, you have appealed to Caesar. To Caesar you will go. Just what God intended. Sharing with Pastor Campbell yesterday, it's a blessing to be in spaces where God is using us, using you, using me, using us to accomplish his will. But you better believe that every day isn't going to be sunshine. You just better believe. And whoever has shared that with you, and you've bought that detergent or whatever, it's like, when you put it in the washing machine, it's like, boy, my clothes are still dirty. It didn't work out. Well, you bought the phony stuff. You should have got whatever the spiritual equivalent of Tide is. You should have understood that in this life you will suffer persecution. That is, if you choose to live godly. That's a big if. Paul is not a pawn. Paul is not a pawn. He's not just some hapless person. Oh, poor Paul. Yeah, no. Who would want to? Oh yeah, put me in Paul's spot. Yeah, I want to lose my head to Nero on this chopping block. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, I want to be beaten close to death several times. I want to suffer shipwreck. I want to do it. That Paul is not a pawn. Paul has allowed himself to be put in a position to be used of God in a way that we read about 2 millennia later. We often fall into that trap of, I'm glad Paul did it. I'm glad I didn't. That's kind of what again, sharing with Pastor Shields yesterday. Yesterday was a busy day of talking to pastoral folks. And as I reminded Pastor Shields, as he reminded me, he said, the things that we have experienced, at no point did God ask my permission. At no point. Again, if you choose to live godly, You will suffer persecution. Now, don't get it mixed up. Well, they're picking at me on my job. But you've been showing up late. You've been leaving early, and they're not picking on you. You need to be fired, is really. But so don't twist that and misapply that to your life and feign some, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. No, you brought it on yourself. But if you choose to live godly, you will suffer persecution. Paul is not a pawn. And as we have that choice, I pray every morning. I pray every morning, God, mold me and shape me into your image. Why? So I can be an incredible witness for you today. Every morning. I got a list of things like you got a list of things. And I'm trying to be, again, listen more, talk less in that intimate time in the morning. Mold me. Shape me into your image. So when those Pauline opportunities come up, I won't stand there and scream and yell and say, it's not fair. You got the wrong guy. This is that. It's like, okay, God, I'm here. I'm here. I've shared before. It's kind of like that, that red-nosed little blow-up thing that's weighted at the bottom. Gets punched in the nose often. Gets punched in the nose. Falls back. And then comes forward again. Only to get punched in the nose again. Pastor, I don't want to get punched in the nose. I ain't going around asking people to punch me in the nose. I don't have a death wish, Sister Jones. I don't. But if you choose to live godly, this is the result. No human judgment seat can derail God's plan. That's the last slide. I'm done. Here's the bema. The bema. For those of us that don't it's like, boy, oh boy, our sins are in the sea of forgetfulness as far as the east is from the west, as far as the heavens are above the earth. Get all that. This is what the text says. There will come a time when Jesus will be in that seat of judgment. Not goats and sheep separation, but he's going to say, Mark, I gave you X number of years, and I've given you X number of opportunities. Let's look at the record. Let's look at the record. Well, boy, just as long as I make it into heaven, I hear what you're saying. This would not be in the text if it weren't hugely significant. That there will be there has to be, or why sit in judgment? Why give an account? Why be assessed? See, we worry. I'm not suggesting, again, Sister Jones, be it the praise team singing on cue or in rhythm or all of that, and I'm not even saying don't aspire. You do want to aspire to get all excellence or all A's on your score sheet at your work, at your job. But if we're not careful, we will give more allegiance and attention to that than to that. No, I don't, Pastor. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Because, dare I say, how much time, if time is any measure of attention to detail, if you will, how much time do we spend in those spaces that will lead to this type of judgment versus the world's judgments? And the world, I don't even want to go there, but we're in the world, we're not of the world. We live in this space. We worship in this space. We witness in this space. We serve in this space. But just like, if God spares us, we'll go on vacation, it'll require a passport, all those wonderful things, but my citizenship will always snap back to this country, at least for now. At least for now. But the parallel is, no matter where I go, my passport says a certain thing. And it's the same thing for us spiritually, as Paul reminds us in his letter to the Philippians. Our citizenship is in heaven. Well, I thought heaven is a physical place. Yeah, it probably is. I'm sure it is. John saw it. But why did Paul say, my citizenship, present tense, is in heaven? There's a certain responsibility and behavior associated with that passport that we claim to possess that ought to necessarily determine how we live and act and breathe right now. Not one day, not soon and very soon, right now. Right now, right now. What does that look like, Pastor? Give me, as one person said, I feel like Jesus, and I'm not. Make it plain. Ted, speak clearly. I can't. I don't know what God is calling you to do. And you may not know because we tend to talk too much, and we can't even hear because we're talking too much. But if we would pump the brakes, pause, listen. What are you saying? What are you saying? Oh, do that? Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Lord, if it's possible for this cup to pass, please. I don't want to go that way. But not my will, yours be done. That's Paul. That was Jesus, but that's Paul. Again, he's not that weighted bottom, little inflatable, punch me, punch me, punch me, punch me. No, but if you punch this side, okay, go ahead, have at it. You're going to say this? Okay, have at it. We stand flat-footed and resolute in our integrity and who we are and whose we are. And we cannot, will not respond to the attacks of the evil one in an evil manner.